So we are continuing on our adventure today. This quest that we have to find the hidden grail, that true hidden grail that lies within us, right? So we're ready to continue on our adventure? Yeah. And those of you online, by the way, you're playing along with us, right? You're continuing on the adventure with us. If you would just say hello, and yeah, I'm with you, then we know we're participating together. Just go ahead and put that in the chat. And so this week, our journey takes us to discovering the treasure of inner guidance. Inner guidance. So that's a quality we all have, inner guidance, right? I mean, as divinely human beings, we come fully equipped. It was installed at the factory, the whole complete package. There's nothing missing. And I think that one of the reasons that we have that particular quality is so that when we get lost in this upside-down world that is asleep and dreaming, say it with me, the dream of separation, that we can find our way back. Now, unfortunately, most people have it well hidden, and I think it's because as we're growing up, our culture, education, it doesn't really encourage it. In fact, it discourages it, and we sort of push that back into the box with all those other kind of squishy, airy-fairy things like self-compassion and inner peace and faith. Like, who needs that, right? I'm going to make it in the world. I can do it. I can navigate myself into this human-only world, learn the rules, play the game. And when we have had to make important decisions, we have mostly relied on our brain's ability to analyze, to weigh the balance, weigh the options, think logically, rationally. Now, there's a place for that, obviously. That there's a place for that. It's just that it's not the whole picture. It's just that it's part of it. Discovering and activating that mysterious, soft skill that we call intuition or divine guidance can actually be the difference between life and death. The difference between following that inner nudge that says, you should go get that little bump on your shoulder checked out, right? And if we follow that, and if it's something, then we get the guidance, and we live. Or we don't. Nothing. That's nothing. And then we push away that inner nudge, we push it away, and then we suffer the consequences. So that inner nudge can also lead us to say yes to relationships that become lifelong friendships, and no to those that might cause us a lot of pain. That inner guidance can give us the insight to stay where we are, to bloom where we're planted, or to move to a different city altogether. That inner guidance can lead us into activities that broaden our social circle, that ignite our imagination, that feed our soul, that really add joy to our life. It can lead us to say yes to jobs and careers that are a better fit for us than others, homes and communities that are a better fit for us than others, spiritual communities that are a better fit for us than others, and lead us onto a spiritual path where we learn and we grow and we evolve and we express more of that divine potential within us. So why wouldn't we access that? Why wouldn't we want to have that innate ability, to fully avail ourselves of that? Well, I guess because either we don't know it's there or we don't know how to access it, right? We don't know how to access it. So, that's what we're going to talk about today. And here's the thing, we all lead busy lives. I know we all lead busy lives. We live in a very busy, very noisy world, and we've become very reliant on technology. So much so that the voice of our inner wisdom has receded way back into the corner of the room, so we can't hear it at all. And, we use the internet for everything, and God bless the internet. I love technology. I love the internet. It can be such a blessing in so many ways. But also, I think sometimes we become more reliant on it than trusting our inner guidance. Maybe we're double-checking all the comments on a place that we want to visit, rather than trusting the inner nudge that gave us the idea to go there in the first place. We check our phone's weather app before we step outside the door in the morning. I do that. We trust maps. We trust the nav system in our car or on our phone, whatever we're using, so much. And so when it's wrong, and sometimes it is, right, we still trust it rather than, this inner gut instinct that's saying, no, this does not feel right. And yet we go, no, this is the nav system. Got to follow that. We ask everyone else for advice about what we should do, that we have forgotten how to listen to our inner wisdom. And so it's atrophied. This is like a spiritual muscle that has atrophied, like a physical muscle. And I had recent experience with an atrophied muscle, or some. It was in a boot because I broke my foot, for those of you who don't know, for 2 months. And when I was asked to, it was time to transition to a shoe, my foot was like, like you couldn't carry me. And I went for a little walk, and I came back, and it was my muscles were so exhausted. And I'm like, what's up with that? And the doctor said, well, your muscles have atrophied because they've been held so, firm so that your foot could heal, the bones could heal. Yeah. So it just, it happens so fast. But also, it happened fast to rebuild the muscles. That, like in 2.5 weeks, those muscles are almost completely rebuilt. So that's what we're going to do with that muscle of our inner guidance. We're going to build it back better. All right, excuse me. Let's first, though, check in with our man, Charles Fillmore, who says about intuition, it is the wisdom of the heart. It is very much surer than the head. When one trusts spirit and looks to it for understanding, a certain confidence in the invisible good develops. That faith awakens the so-called sixth sense, or intuition, or divine knowing. So that inner guidance, we know that inner guidance is part of our divine nature. And as such, it sees a bigger picture. The whole, full picture. Whereas we're seeing just a little tiny bit, the little tiny bit that we can see, that we can try to figure out from our own understanding. So we want to awaken. We want to awaken that sixth sense, or intuition, or that divine knowing. And first, I think we have to understand that our intuition speaks a different language than what we're usually used to understanding. Our intuition, or our inner guidance, speaks the language of images, symbols, fragments of sentences, maybe a word or two. It can speak to us in our body. So that's why we want to, be alert to our body signals, changes in our breathing, changes in our heartbeat, changes in our gut instinct, right? They say that for a reason. Or changes in our skin. People say, ooh, the hair on the back of my neck stood up. Well, yeah, it's like your body's giving you a signal. So that's why I guided the meditation in that way, to help, awaken your physical senses, all physical senses, and then go a little deeper into the feeling nature and be aware of that, and be aware of any kind of images or symbols that come into your mind or words, and then bring it then deeper into that energetic center, one of those 12 powers, which is the power of wisdom. Those are those 12 energy centers that are within us that are access points to specific qualities of our spiritual power. And this is the power of wisdom. So use that. You can, repeat that throughout the week. Use that exercise. Become aware of your body signals, all of the sensations, what you're seeing, what you're hearing, what you're tasting, what you're smelling. We didn't do that part. And then your feeling nature, and then bring it down into this solar plexus area. And just see, we want to awaken all of the ways that our intuition wants to speak to us. It's different for everybody, right? And it could be different messages can come through in different ways. All right, so we want to also know that it's a two-way communication. Our intuition, our divine guidance, a two-way communication. So it responds to questions. We can ask questions. The question is, what kind of questions are we asking? We want to ask better questions. So the classic story of the ambiguous question goes back to ancient Greece. The powerful ruler goes to the Oracle of Delphi and asks the question, will a great battle be won? And the oracle responds in the affirmative. And so the ruler goes off confident, secure. The oracle was right. A great battle was won. It's just won by the enemy. So our questions, we want them to be unambiguous. We want them to be direct, simple also. Simple, not compound. So will I get married and have children? We'll ask two different questions. So you want just one simple question. And also directly related to your personal life, your personal issue. So, if you ask the question, is now a good time to buy a home? Your intuition is going to be confused about that, because it's not like, well, if it's a home on the coast in Florida right now, maybe that's not such a good idea. But maybe for you in Chapel Hill, this might be a good time. So we want to make sure it's clear, it's simple, and it's directly related to our issue. Okay, so now, also above all, the questions that we want to ask, we want them to lead us in a more positive direction, right? So rather than asking questions like, why me? Why now? Is he going to leave me? Am I going to get fired? We want to ask questions like, what action can I take now? How can I use this experience to help me grow? And maybe to help someone else? See, those kind of questions really lead us in a positive direction. All right, so now that we know how to ask a better question, we want to get into a place where we can hear the answer. We want to get into a place where we can hear the answer. So let's talk about a few ways that we can do that. The first way, I'll bet you know what I'm going to say. Meditation. Meditation, it's good. And whether that's a classic closed eyes, formal, sitting there in the quiet, or if it's a walking meditation, we talked about that last week, the whole idea of letting your feet kiss the ground, that Thich Nhat Hanh idea. That could be meditation. But whichever way, have like a little notebook or your journal by your side and a pen. And when you go into meditation, set the intention and ask the question. And ask it just like once or twice, and then let it go. Let it kind of sink down into your inner guidance, the solar plexus area. Just let it sink in there, let it go. Just be in the meditation or be in the walking, whatever. And if you feel a little bubbling up of something, then take your pen and write it down. Write down whatever images, maybe draw, if it's if you're visual, it could be that, or a symbol, or words. If you get to the end of the meditation and you feel like you haven't gotten anything, pick up your pen anyway and start writing. Because sometimes the energy, the intention of, okay, now I'm got my pen here, I'm writing, and you just start, sometimes it comes that way. It's just... it works through your hand, through the pen, and it becomes clearer that way. Okay, so that's meditation. Another way to do it is right before going to sleep. That state between sleeping and wakefulness, those theta brain waves, that beautiful state. That's kind of where the guidance lives. So ask your question as you're falling asleep and just let it drop in. And then when you wake up, pay attention to the dreams you had, or maybe, an answer comes and you then keep, something by your bedside table and write down the answer, or something. Or just go about your day. It may not happen immediately. It could happen later on down the road that day or that week. Somebody says something to you and you go, that's it. So we want to stay alert. Another way, of course, is our labyrinth. It's kind of set up for this, right? It's set up for to have our questions answered. And so it's a spiral labyrinth. I think all labyrinths are good for this, but something about the spiral, it just really feels like, so you ask your question as you're walking in. Does everybody know where our labyrinth is? Out there, if you haven't yet. No. So there's like steps that go up from the parking lot, and you'll see signs that lead you there. It's part of our outdoor sacred spaces, and I think the kids are there right now with our showman, Oswaldo, doing a little activity. So have your question and let it, again, be clear. We know how to formulate a question, right? Positive direction, clear, directly related, specific, unambiguous. And so ask it, and then let it go. Start walking. Just feel your feet touching the ground as you're going in. As you're spiraling back out, just set the intention to hear, listen. You're listening for the answer. Okay, so that's another method. You might want to try that. Also, pay attention to the synchronicities. The synchronicities, things that happen that you just can't explain how those things came together, and wow. Because the universe is telling you something there. There is a message in that. When you're having a synchronous event, you just pay attention to that. Wow, okay. What's in there for me? There's something important there. Also, pay attention to the sixth sense that may be awakening within you when you're walking into a new place, or you're meeting a new person, or it's a new situation. Sometimes we have something that just a sudden knowing. I've had this, and then it comes all together, down the lines. I've had this happen so many times to me. I'll share just a couple of things. So when I first started coming to Unity Center of Peace as a congregant, that was, 12 or almost 13 years ago now. I loved it, and I jumped in right away to participate in something. And I went into, Bruce Milne was the minister here at the time, and he was back in his office. And so I walked in to talk with him about this thing we were working on together, walked into the office, and just suddenly I stood there, and I got this is going to be your office one day. And I went, no, what? I mean, I hadn't even thought of going to seminary at that time. It wasn't even on the horizon for me. So it's just kind of freaked me out. But I never, forgot. That was the thing. And now I'll tell you another experience I had, and I want to share this because it's our anniversary today, November 13th, 29th anniversary. So when Dana and I met, it was in a completely different context. Some of you know the story. We were both at Disney Studios in LA, and he was casting a play that he had written, and just real short, brief version of this, and I came and I met with him, we talked about it, I came back and read for him, and when I left there was definitely a connection, but when I left there and I was walking to the parking lot, I just got this is going to be a significant relationship in your life. And I was like, okay, I'm down with that. I think it took him a few days to catch on, but he eventually got there. So again, pay attention to, is there something important about this new person, this new place, this new event, this new something? If there is a sense that's awakened within you, you want to pay attention to that. And honor that. As we do, again, a two-way communication, as we listen to the guidance and we follow it, we're building this relationship. We're building the trust that Fillmore was talking about. We're building that confidence that indeed, and then it becomes a more significant part of our life. It becomes something that we can really rely on, and it can lead us into, amazing things. Excuse me just a sec. All right, so before I close, I just want to briefly answer the question that a lot of people have, and I have had it, and I still have it, so I have to keep coming back to this. And that is, how can I tell the difference between my intuition and my fear? Like, should I get on this plane? Should I get off this plane? Should I go in this direction? Should I not? Should I jump into this opportunity? Is this going to be disastrous? Right? We confuse fear with intuition a lot. So let's look at the qualities of each of these and see if we can determine the difference for ourselves. So fear, that fear is talking to you when there's a feeling, you get a sensation of uneasiness. Sometimes it's a frenetic kind of energy. It could be a sensation of contraction, like it translates into you wanting to pull back, get small. If you feel a sense of, this is making me feel small, that might be your fear. Fear also, it can trigger those subconscious things, and if we become conscious of it, we can really pick it up. But sometimes if this little thought in the back of your mind says, I want to avoid disappointment. I want to avoid disapproval. I want to avoid failure. That's the fear talking. So that fear is not intuition, right? Now we know that is our intuition speaking to us when we feel like we're drawn towards something. We're pulled toward something. And of course, all actions involve some kind of risk. There's some kind of risk associated with any new thing that we do, right? Well, what's the alternative? We stay stuck, which has kind of its own risks associated with that. So, but if we're in tune with our intuition, if it's something that piques our interest, that piques our curiosity, maybe there's some excitement about it. If there's a sense of expansion, that's really key. If when we're thinking about this, there's a sense of expansion here, if it's easier to breathe, and again, you want to listen to your body's signal. You know, what's happening with my breathing, what's happening with my heart rate, what's happening, my skin. You pay attention to this. This is why we want to sensitize ourselves to those. And then if it's something that your intuition is telling you to avoid, it could be a calm, relaxed, just direct, no, this is not the right time, or no, this is not the right opportunity, but just in a calm sense, or yeah, you better get that checked out. It's a calm, relaxed, rather than this fearful energy. Okay, so practice this week. Seeing if you, as you're going through the week, and you got some decisions to make, see if you can tell the difference between these two things. Fear or intuition. Really do that exercise of sensitizing yourself. See what kind of questions you're asking. See if you can ask a question before meditation or sleep, or try the labyrinth. So I've written them on a handout that's in your program so that you can take that home and look at it and practice with that. And to anchor all of this in, we've got a special little gift, an affirmation that the greeters are going to come by and put in your hot little hands. And if you take that home, he's going, it's not hot. It's not little. And take that, put it somewhere where you will see it through the week. And when everybody gets it in their hands, let's affirm that together as a community. All right, and for those of you online, I think maybe there's a link being put into the chat that you can click on. Takes you to our website that has this information too. If one of you would bring one to me too, so I can say it together with everybody. Thank you, Mary. All right, here we go. Take a deep breath. Together, I cultivate my inner guidance, which leads me into expansive and joyful living. And so it is.